What are we, episode 44? I hope so. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Desert Farmer Podcast, episode 44. So it is February here in 2025, and we have some spring discussions to have already here in Arizona. So we are going to get to that here in just a few moments. But before we do, have a couple of housekeeping notes. Housekeeping note number one would be what?
If you have a question, just write question, preferably in caps, and then state your question. Perfect example is our first comment on here.
There we go. So somebody's already been here before, so they know how this works. And then housekeeping note number two would be give us a thumbs up. So if you enjoy the content, you enjoy the podcast, definitely give us a thumbs up. That helps us not only today, but in perpetuity. So we've got a few things we want to cover with you guys today. I will say the agenda is not very big, so we're going to definitely have lots of time for you guys to ask some questions. The main topic of today is going to be bud break, which I don't want to say I told you so, but, well, I did. And so we saw what we always see, which is our earliest fruiting varieties already putting on some flowering. So we're going to talk about that and what that means for all of us. If you delayed pruning, what does that mean? All that great stuff. But before we get to that, we have a highlight of the week that we need to talk about this week. And for all of us in Arizona, you had to be just jumping for joy because we finally got rain.
Yes.
We didn't have anything to do with it, but it was
2 days that we had rain.
We had rain. So 2 different days we had rain, and we had rain multiple times in a day. So that was kind of nice. So it kind of spread it out a little bit. We got some measurable rain. Let's see. Did anybody check that rain gauge by any chance while she was here this week? I wonder.
I forgot.
So we don't know exactly how much we got. My guess is
a lot.
No. It was definitely measurable though. So this is the first measurable rain we've gotten since summertime. Always exciting for us here. You know, we joke about this a little bit because, you know, everybody in the Pacific Northwest and some of these other areas where you just jump for joy for the sun. We do the same thing for rain and cloudy days because we just don't see them often. But it was great to see the rain, and you know, it obviously getting some natural rainfall for the pasture and some of those other areas on the farm. It's important. Moisture is always a good thing here in the desert, and it finally got some of the dust and dirt off of the trees because we did pruning this year, and in fact, I think it was the apple or the thinning video. I think it might have been the thinning video. If you guys watched that, when I was taking the leaves off the apple tree, it just blew dust in my face.
Yeah. There's so much dust on our trees.
It was just ridiculous. But all those are happy. Also, weather-wise, we've gotten a lot of good chill hours over the last several weeks. You know, you guys know we went through pretty much the month of December without having any real chill hours. I think less than maybe a couple dozen for us, even out here in Whitman. And we finally have the last few weeks have been nice and cold, and we're clocking a good 12 plus hours of chill every night, and that includes last night. This night and going into the following week, though, it looks like we're going to lose that. So we're not going to get quite cold enough. So I don't know whether or not we're done. We might be, but that's part of our topic of today too, when it comes to flowering. So, so before I do, we're going to get to the topic here for everybody. Before we do, questions. Is there any questions I need to address?
Yeah. We have.
Oh, and then before I forget, we have a taste test for you guys today. This is a very, very special citrus that I don't even know if you would be able to get this at this point, but stay tuned for that. Question.
It's not letting me go up to read this question. So I can't read the whole thing because it's cutting me off. But basically, peach tree has got buds on them, flowering. Did not get a chance to prune it yet. Should I just do minimal pruning of the middle of the tree or the whole tree? Okay,
so we're going to address that today. So yeah. We'll address that in the topic. So is there any other questions besides that?
Let's see. Where would you recommend getting a blackjack fig tree in Phoenix? They seem hard to find. Reed does not have them at this time.
That I don't know. Shoot. Reed, I believe, that's where we got ours, isn't it? So,
Well, no.
do you remember? I don't remember where we got our first blackjack.
Original one, yeah, I think we did get it from him, and then
Right.
we propagated from the
We
old property.
propagated this one. I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I know he's where we got ours originally, and I'm not really all that sure, to be honest. Where else you would get a blackjack? I don't know if I've seen it or not. I have to check online.
I have seen them.
Have you? I think I've
Yeah.
seen them online, if I'm not
I've
mistaken.
seen them online. I've seen them at, I can't remember what nurseries I've seen them at, but I have seen them before.
Yeah, this is definitely the time of year too. So do a quick search, a Google search, and see if you can find an online nursery that has them right now. We're going into peak season for planting, and most of those nurseries have got figs. I don't recall exactly where. If you can't find it, shoot us a quick email. We'll see if we can do some additional research with you. But you probably have to order that one online. Would be my
Yeah,
guess.
I would check Richard's Garden Center too. They tend to
It's
have,
possible. I just don't know whether or not they have that.
Yeah,
So that one is a little bit unique. So, all right.
I'll try to look on.
Any
my
other
phone.
questions?
Um,
Got some howdies and hellos.
yeah. Someone
right.
said you could try Seamus O'Leary's
Okay. Yep.
or Whitfield.
And Whitfield. Yeah, Whitfield would be a good one too. But online's probably going to be your best bet. All right, so we're going to get to additional questions, but I want to cover the topic of the day. So one of the things that we try to do for you guys here is we try to encourage you guys to follow the seasons. And we have some unique seasons here in Arizona because of our climate. And there's a few things that are just different here than the rest of the country. And of course, what we're up against now is one of those things. So we have a handful of trees that break dormancy very early, that put on fruit early. And it's a good thing because once we get into the summer months, fruit has a very, very difficult time ripening for us. It's just too hot and dry. So the varieties that we choose have to basically ripen fruit in the same time frame that everybody else does. The difference is they're not ripening in September, they're ripening in June. And so if you think about it this way, typically, a typical apple harvest, let's say, is happening in September, maybe October, in the fall months. And it's occurring in places like the Pacific Northwest, really across the country, but a traditional climate. So those fruit are setting when a tree breaks dormancy, or I'm sorry, the flowering in the fruit set is happening when the tree breaks dormancy, which is much later in the year for us here in Arizona. So typically they're breaking dormancy in, say, April, maybe even into May. And then, of course, you've got May, June, July, August, September. So you're looking at about 4 to 5 months before that fruit is actually ripening. So the exact same thing happens here. So if you have a tree that's going to ripen fruit in, say, May or June, and it takes about 3 to 4 months from flowering or fruit set until fruit ripening, that means you've got to be having a tree breaking dormancy in January. Okay, so all of your trees that are May and June ripening, these trees are breaking dormancy right now. So this is not surprising. It happens every year, and it has to, because we know we're going to get that fruit ripening in May and June, which means we have to get flowering and fruit set in January, beginning of February. So, of course, the earliest varieties that we have would be the Florida Prince Peach, and then also your summer apples, specifically the Golden Dorset and the Anna. All of those are trees that are going to flower first, and it always happens the last week of January. We see our Florida Prince pop a few of those flowers. Now, it has not, at least here, out in Whitman, 5 or 6 degrees cooler than you guys are in the city. We only see a handful of flowers, right? Would you say maybe 1 or 2 flowers per tree at this point? Mm-hmm. We just had frost last night, and we had freezing temps the night before, down into it was in the mid 30s. So we're still very, very cold here. But this coming week, we have temperatures that are going to be into the 70s, 80 degrees in the city, at least in Phoenix. You're going to see some 80s here by the time we get into Monday, Tuesday of next week, which means now is the time to get everything done because you're about to have a tree explode with flowers if it hasn't done so already. So we are definitely there. And these early flowering varieties, they're going to be coming out of dormancy lickety split. So what does that mean? Obviously, first and foremost, that means pruning. Excuse me. If you haven't gotten your pruning done yet, you may be out of luck. And I can't speak to every tree because every tree is a little bit different. But at this point, if you're seeing bud swell, and in the thumbnail for today, you see a perfect example of a flower and then 2 buds that are swelled and about to break. So that flower, you took that picture, what was it, on Thursday? Is that correct? Mm-hmm. So Thursday afternoon, Lori snapped that picture so you guys could kind of see we have a flower that's open and then we have 2 buds that are completely swollen. Those flowers, I didn't see them this morning, but they'll probably be open by tomorrow, Monday at the latest. So once you start seeing that, your tree is pushing sap back up into the branches, and you need to be very, very cautious if you're going to do any pruning. My suggestion is don't do any heavy pruning. So with these early varieties, if you got a Florida Prince Peach or a Golden Dorset apple or an Anna apple, if you have one of these varieties and you haven't finished pruning, if you're going to do any, really focus on dead and dying branches, smaller branches, small branches that are crossing, your basic things for pruning. At this point, don't do any major pruning. If you do that, you could potentially cause problems, especially if we get any moisture, which we shouldn't, but if somehow moisture gets on the tree, plus you have sap running. So you definitely don't want to do any major pruning. Of course, the biggest thing right now would be anything else that you have not finished as far as pruning is concerned. You got to get it done because all of our trees are going to be breaking dormancy over the next 30 days or so. If you guys are in the city, that means you've got a shorter time frame probably within the next couple of weeks, maybe 3 to 4 weeks at the most. You guys are going to start seeing your plums break dormancy if you have any. If you have fall apples, those are still a ways off. You may see figs. It's possible in February, although that's typically not until March. So, you've got a very, very, very limited time for doing any pruning. Last, mulberries. Did you peek by any chance at the Shangri-La to see whether or not there's any bud swelling on that? So the Shangri-La mulberry and the Everbearing mulberry, if you guys have those varieties, those could be potentially coming out of dormancy here as well. Those are also early fruiting varieties. So all your early fruiting varieties over the next couple of weeks are going to definitely break dormancy. This warm weather that we have next week is definitely going to bring those trees out of dormancy, and they're just going to explode into life. Mm-hmm. So that would be kind of the marching orders here over the next few weeks. I know this morning we did all of our black Pakistan mulberries got pruned, our pecans got pruned. The only thing we have left would be our figs, which we're going to be pruning tomorrow. So we're going to get all of our figs done. Fingers crossed. We're going to get all of our figs pruned tomorrow. I think we have, 16 fig trees to prune? 16 or 17 fig trees to prune. So we'll be doing all of those tomorrow. And then last bunch of pruning for us is going to be grapevines. Figs and grapevines are always the last ones to break dormancy. Even with warm weather, we shouldn't see those breaking dormancy in the next week. But we should be completely done with pruning by next weekend at the latest. So kind of give you guys an idea of with a schedule that we're on here in Whitman, realizing that we're about 5 or 6 degrees cooler than you guys are in Phoenix. And we're about the same as anybody that's in Tucson. So if you guys are in Tucson, our weather here is about the same as you guys, about 5 to 6 degrees cooler than Phoenix. So you may have a little bit of a reprieve, but expect to see flowers. And if you haven't checked your trees, check them, because you might get a good shot of some beautiful flowers that are about to burst forth. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure you guys have some questions here when it comes to this topic. So we're going to address your questions. I know the biggest one is probably going to be, and I'm going to head that off now, is probably going to be, now what? If the tree has broken dormancy and it's flowered, what happens if there's frost? What's the answer to that question? You got nothing?
You're all, nothing you can do.
So frost and freeze are two different things. So, obviously frost is basically below 40 degrees. So you get up into the, upper 30s, you're going to get a frost. And if you get a hard freeze when you have flowers, you're probably out of luck. You're probably not going to get any fruit if you get a hard freeze. Now, for you guys in the city, chances are you can get it. So our last frost date for you guys in the city isn't until the middle of February. So we have 2 weeks before you guys are kind of in the clear officially. But I will tell you, for the last few years, we've gotten frosts at the end of February, and that's very common. Into March, we got frosts out here in the middle of April. Last year, which really messed up some of our crops and our harvests. But for the most part, what we're looking for now is not getting below 40 degrees. So if we stay above 40, there's really not much concern with your trees when it comes to the flowering. Now, if you get below 40, so you're looking at, high 30s. So if we see that during the flowering stage, so where it's at right now, you may want to consider covering the tree just like you would any other frost-sensitive plant in order to protect or not allow frost to settle on the flowers, because the challenge is frost settling on the flowers. You don't want to have that. So if you get that here over the next couple of weeks while it's flowering and you have the ability to cover the tree, do so. That will help to protect those flowers. Again, hard frost or hard freeze, probably not much you can do, but frost, there is something you could do about it, and that would be my suggestion. Now, if you can't, or if you forget, or if you don't realize and it just happens, what'll happen is you'll have degrees of loss when it comes to your crop. So you get below 40 degrees and you might have a slight loss in crops. As each degree goes further and further towards a hard freeze, you'll lose a higher and higher percentage, potentially, of your harvest because of that colder temp. So each degree, you'll have a higher potential loss of your crops once you get down below 40 degrees. So that's really kind of all we're looking for at this point when it comes to flowers. And really the only concern at this point that we would need to have would be a frost and definitely a hard freeze. So, of course, if you're really, really concerned about your harvest and we go down to the hard freeze, you could cover with plastic and do some type of heating element, whether that's, whether that's Christmas tree lights, the old school large ones that give off heat, or some type of other supplemental heat. You could potentially do that. Smudge pots, we don't really use smudge pots out here. That's kind of not something that most folks use anymore, but that would also be a heat element for your tree. That would be another option that you could consider if we see that hard frost. Now, once you have a fruit set, generally speaking for us here in Arizona, we're really kind of out of the woods at that point because we're really not going to get down into the 20s, which then starts killing off your actual fruit. Again, back to hard freezes. Once that flowering's done and the fruit set's done, you're really kind of out of the woods at that point. So, that's kind of the key for us here with that. So I'm going to stop talking for a second, get a drink of water. Are there any questions at this point?
Well, you had already kind of touched on it, but how many more freeze nights?
Yeah, so as far as, so the official frost date is usually mid-February. February 15th, I want to say, is the official frost date for Zone 9B, Arizona. We kind of narrow that down a little bit. So if you're in Phoenix, in the Phoenix area, or just outside of Phoenix, you're really looking at the middle of February. For us, realistically, it's the end of February. So you're really looking at a couple weeks. And but I will tell you, we pay attention to weather and remember these last frost dates. Like I'm remembering last year and what it did to our harvest. And it's very common for us to get them at the end of February. So, really we probably have another 30 days, but the real issue would be the next 14 to 15 days. So the next couple of weeks is really kind of where we're still kind of stuck in the middle of the woods. So, yeah.
Did you receive your bare root jujube?
We did, and we got it in the ground. Was that last weekend or the weekend before? I think it was last weekend, actually. right before it rained, which was perfect. Oh yeah, that's right. Our dogs tried to kill it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so we got that planted last weekend. We got it. We did record it for you guys, so you guys will get a chance to see that. I don't want to share what variety, but I'm excited about the variety.
I think you already said the variety.
Did I really?
Didn't you say it last week?
I don't think so. I'm not sure. If I did, maybe it's possible. I could be kind of chatty, especially on a podcast when you're supposed to be. What else? Hey, if you guys can give us a thumbs up while you're here, appreciate it. That helps out.
What about bees at this moment? December, January, February, are they flying around or have a pause yet?
Yeah, so we can tell you with certainty that bees are still flying around. So they've been eating all of our citrus, and so we see them in there. We just cleaned up some citrus last weekend. There were still bees in there flying around.
They're on the water tanks too, so we still have them.
Yep. So they just come out later in the day. So midday they're out. Once it's they're hiding away when it's frost. Once the frost breaks, they come out. So they're still out there. The loquats, we haven't gotten a picture of the loquats recently, but I looked at the champagne loquat last night when I got home from work, and there's beautiful little champagne loquats on there.
Is there really?
There are.
Nice.
Yep, there are. So we could be less than 60 days away from a loquat harvest.
Yeah.
Depending on the weather.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Is neem oil good for almond trees?
Yes. In fact, we didn't record it, but we did for the very first time. We did a dormancy spray this morning, and we focused on our pear trees because we're having some blight on the pear trees, and I want to see if we can knock some of that out, knock some of it back. So for the very first time, we started a dormancy spray here on the farm. And we only did the pear trees. So I am going to do that on the grapevines as well, only because I'm trying to knock back whiteflies. I don't think it's going to make a difference, but we're going to give it a shot. Figure it can't hurt. But to answer your question, yes, you can do dormancy spray on any of your trees that go dormant. And that would include your peaches and, obviously an almond being a peach, a very, very small, thin-fleshed peach. You can definitely use that on an almond tree. In fact, the instructions on, I believe it was the neem oil, we're doing a combination of neem and copper. You can get both of those organic. But one of the two of those I know specifically talks about peach leaf curl, which we don't have an issue with here. But if you do, that would be definitely worth trying. So what we're doing is we're doing a combination of neem and copper. Both of those seem to be doing well. We'll see how they do, but both of those I know there's some crossover between the two, but one of them is a fungicide, that's the copper, and then the neem can help with specific bacteria and insects in particular. So that's why we're using that combination. So it worked. I was surprised how well it came out of the sprayer. I wasn't too sure about that.
It sprayed really good. It soaked those trees.
It did. So again, first time we tried it, so we didn't film a video on it today, but we'll kind of see how it does and if it makes a difference. If it does, we'll continue to do it, maybe even expand it if necessary, and we'll share that more. Mm-hmm. What else?
What is the drink of the day?
Do you have one?
Good afternoon, by the way.
Hello. Oh, yeah. What's up, man? I am not drinking today. What do you got?
I just have a hard seltzer.
So it's like is that a Bear Claw or imitation Bear Claw?
Well, it's called White Claw, not Bear Claw.
Oh, Bear Claw. I just here we go. We cut out sugar and I want a Bear Claw.
Yeah, it's actually the Costco version of the White Claws.
Okay, so it's not a Bear Claw, is what you're saying.
It's not a Bear Claw. Remember isn't that those pastries?
It's pastries, yeah.
How are your cuttings, clones holding up with this weather?
So it killed off all of the green. So did you check any of them to make sure we didn't lose any branches? We kept the shade cloth over them to kind of knock back a little bit of the frost. And they were actually green and almost growing up until we got the hard frosts. Well, we didn't quite get down to a hard... No, we did get down to a hard frost.
We did.
So, go ahead.
The figs pretty much have lost most of their leaves. There's a couple of mulberries that still have a few green leaves on them. But
I think the mulberries kind of tucked in with other mulberries, right?
Yeah, the ones that are in that back corner.
Yeah, so they finally dropped all their leaves, but they're still doing all right.
They're hanging in there.
Huh?
you problems that your dogs eat some poops or just soil? And if so, what you recommend to do against it? Thanks.
Okay, I don't know that I would be able to answer that question. I haven't seen our dogs eating their own poop. Have you?
No, they when we first started letting them out, they would be back at the pigs, and I saw them.
They would eat the pig food.
They would, yeah.
Or
They
pig
don't.
poop.
I haven't seen them do that in a long time because I would keep, making them go away. But I
Yeah,
haven't seen that.
I'm not too sure. I will tell you this. One of the things that we got a shock collar, and the one that we have has 3 settings on there. It has a noise, like a beep that it does. It has a vibrate, and it has the shock option. And I don't know whether we have it in our Amazon shop or not, but we can add it there. But we've been using that, the sound. A siren's not the right word, but it's kind of a chirp, not even a chirping noise. Hard to describe the sound.
Yeah.
But you can adjust the sound level, but it irritates the dogs. And so, so the problem that we have is Sasha is a nuisance barker, and she likes to plant herself on the patio. So she keeps us up all night long. At least she was in the beginning. So we use that collar. We put it on her in the evening. We typically take it off in the morning. And what we do is we use the sound. So not the vibrator or the shock. We use the sound. That immediately stops her from barking because it irritates her. So you might want to consider that. Or if we got other folks here that have more experience than we do with pups, maybe somebody's got some other advice. So what else we got? Is that Masood? Masood, marhaba, Masood. I think I got that right.
Did you?
I think so. We'll see. What else we got? Any other questions? I was going to say, it's only 2:30? What? Okay, so while here.
Well, I'm trying to catch up.
Yeah.
I have one right here.
Okay.
Is this the 10-year cycle year, like when we had the hard freeze after Mother's Day a few years back?
So the last time that we had, okay, so that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that for sure, but I can tell you the last time we had the coldest temperatures that we've ever had in Whitman happened in 2019. And I know that because it killed our full-grown mesquite tree on the old farm. It killed the Barbados cherry.
It was a moringa tree.
Or what did I say? Oh, I said mesquite.
Mesquite tree.
Sorry, moringa. Killed the moringa tree, killed the Barbados cherry, and that was in 2019. So that was January of 2019. That was the last time that we got in. That we hit 20 degrees. So I don't remember, and I know you guys did in the city as well. So not as low. You guys were down into the mid-20s. So that was 6 years ago. So I'm not sure. But I mean, we had those crazy frosts last year. So I really don't know. Yeah, really don't know. What else?
How do you treat fire blight on a Waddell pear tree? When does your pear tree come out of dormant?
There you go. So the pear trees are a little bit later. So we probably won't see those until probably March. They could be February, like February, March. But that's what we started today. So we actually sprayed for the first time ever to help try to control the fire blight because we are having issues with that on both of the Waddells, one in particular. But 2 things that we are doing this year. Number one, we're very, very, we're being much more careful with what we're pruning off of those trees and making sure we get any branches with blight on them off the tree. So this is the first year that I was able to easily see the blight that occurred on the branches. So we're cutting past, a few inches past the blight, or lopping the whole branch off if you're able to. So that's the first thing we do. Second thing is dormancy spray. That's what we're doing. We did this morning. So all of our pear trees were sprayed this morning with a combination of neem and copper. Both of them organic. We need to get those into the Amazon shop. But both of those organic options for that. So that's where we're starting. So my understanding is the secondary part of this would be once they've actually broken dormancy and they're leafing out. And so at that point you can reapply, and we may, particularly the copper. So we may be doing the copper as well. Just need to be careful with flowering because we don't want to put that on there when there's flowers. But once the fruit's set, you can. It's organic. And so you can spray it at that point. So we may come back and do that. But before I do, I want to see how the dormancy spray works. And then I believe that we missed our first window on the dormancy spray. Should have been in the fall. So like probably about a month ago. You can do that while once the tree has lost its leaves, you can spray at that point because obviously there is blight on those leaves. So the other part is leaf matter. So every other tree, the leaves are fine on the ground. That one, you might want to pick those up. So if you have blight, those can exist on your leaves as well because obviously they do. So that's the other part of that. So it's complicated. The good news with blight though is it doesn't always necessarily kill a tree. So I know we've had it for the last couple of years and the trees come back. So they lose their leaves, but then the leaves come back. So, but a small tree could definitely kill it. Mm-hmm. Is that Pam with the...
That's Pam. Thanks,
Pam, thank you for the super chat. What a sweetheart. She's the best. Thank you, Pam.
How often do you irrigate now your trees and pasture? And have you now chickens on pasture?
Okay, great question. So, I'm going to answer the chickens on pasture. Yes, not the new hens. You guys haven't seen those yet. We haven't done a vlog. We probably still have several weeks before you'll see a vlog from us. So an update as far as a video update. But the small hens we won't let out yet. We haven't trained them to scratch. So they won't go out on pasture for probably another month or two. But the older hens we have back on the turkey pasture. Mm-hmm. So those are on the turkey pasture now. They pretty much have been since after a few days on that pasture.
Yeah.
So, yep.
Yep. And then how often do you irrigate?
Oh, irrigation. So this point, it's no more than every other week, with the exception of citrus. So our evergreen citrus, those we're watering weekly. So once a week, 60 gallons once a week. And everything else is no more than every other week at this point. Now, we did get some rain this week, and I forgot to turn off the irrigation because we probably could have. But every other week and 60 gallons every other week for every other plant on the farm. Our pastures are usually every third day or so. We've been very cold. So, once we get back up into the 80s, we're probably looking at every other day on the pastures. And those are about 20 minutes. We use the oscillating sprinklers there or the impact sprinklers. The turkey pasture, I think, is every other day. So that's our frequency now on irrigation. So most of them don't really need it too much. But I will tell you, with trees that are breaking dormancy, you want to make sure they are not getting dry soil. That's a problem. They need to have irrigation. So we stay warm like this, we'll stay on a weekly schedule for those trees that are breaking dormancy. So, yeah, good question.
Will the U-pick system on your farm be active this year or next year?
So I'm hopeful that we will have it this year. So we have a vacation planned in the month of May, which is kind of in the middle of all of this. So I don't know for sure kind of how that's going to play out. And it depends on production. The biggest thing is production. So, we talked a little bit earlier about the peach harvest and the varying degrees of loss based on frost. So, if we get late frosts when these trees are flowering here over the next month, then it'll severely impact or potentially impact the harvest. So we just want to make sure we have enough harvest. This year, we also have big enough trees because what we're wanting to do, we still want to harvest from these trees as well. So we needed the trees to be big enough that we could have folks come out, do a harvest where they can reach. And then we still had peaches above that we could harvest. So I'm hopeful that it'll be this spring. So we're keeping our fingers crossed. But that will only be open to our customer email list. So if you're not on that yet, head over to the website, make sure you're on the customer email list because that's the only way we will announce that. We won't announce it here because we're going to have signups for that because we'll have to limit the space and we'll have signups for that process.
Yeah.
So good question. What else?
Off the top of your head, what are your next 3 priority projects on the farm?
So number 1 would be our pole barn, right? So we have that. We have our welders that will be out actually this month, right?
Yeah,
so we already did the deposit for that.
They should be ordering all the supplies.
Yep.
Now.
So that is the biggest thing, and that kind of is really 1, 2, and 3 because we're going to be working on that for the next few months as we have revenue in order to do all the parts and pieces. The biggest thing is getting the cover up. So you guys, we will film that, so you guys will see that. But we have them coming out to build a pole barn. So we're going to get that done. And then there are several steps within that. We're hopeful that will be able to have at least a semi-permanent area for our big pigs, and a permanent area for our cooney pigs, and then housing for the goats and eventually the sheep that we'll have on the farm. So that's kind of where we're going to have an area where they can kind of come back to and have permanent, at least it will be permanent. And then we'll have the animals kind of float in and out of that. So it's critical to our plans for the back half of the farm. That's number one. Number two would be everything that goes on around that. So, we have to get water to that. We have to get electricity to that. We have to get corrals up. We're going to get cement down. So, we've got a lot of things that are going to kind of all go into that. And so that's going to probably be the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Livestock, we are going to have some additional livestock coming onto the farm. My hope is some additional feathered friends once we get into early summer. So
when we move the goats out, we'll have an open area.
Yep.
Actually, two open areas.
Yep. So there's kind of a trickling effect of the pole barn.
Yeah.
Yep. So we got a few things that are going to shift out, and then things that we're going to bring in. So it's going to be a lot more livestock focused this year, because we want to get the livestock in and up and running. If you guys don't know this already, we feed our dogs mainly raw, and we also feed the cats about half. I would say about half of them. Maybe not quite half for the cats. Right?
No, they get raw in the evenings, but then they still have their dry food.
Yeah, and the dogs are doing fantastic on it. Mm-hmm. The cats do really well with certain things. They are very finicky. There's no question about that. But our livestock production is going to help with those things. Big dogs eat a lot. So they're big dogs. They eat a lot. They eat big. So, we want to make sure that we can keep them on the diet that we want. They still get some kibble, but we want to really limit that. Obviously everybody's got their opinions on this, and that's fine. Opinions are what all of us have. But, we're firm believers that, we watch canines come onto the farm for the last several years, and we know what they eat, and that's, animals. And so, these canines are bigger than that, and they do the same. And so we want to make sure they're on a proper dog diet. And that is a lot of raw meats, bones, organs, everything that they would normally get in the wild. Same thing that a wolf would eat, same thing coyotes eat, which would be animals. And so, we want to feed them that way. A dog food is highly processed food. And, we try to keep that out of our diet. We want to do the same thing for our animals. So, of course, the biggest challenge would be the rest of our animals still wind up having all that grain.
Yeah, I know.
So it's increments. It's baby steps. So, but yeah, I think 1, 2, and then 3 would be if we have time this fall. Again, back to livestock. We got some livestock, sheep in particular. We want to try to get added by this fall at the latest. So, yeah. What else?
So we have Anthony on here, new to the channel.
Hey, what's up, Anthony?
And he actually lived down the road on Lone Mountain.
Oh,
close
very
by.
good. Yeah, that's
do
literally.
you ever give tours of the farm?
We sure do. So we do at least 2 of those. We schedule them just because the challenge that we have here is that there's a lot of folks that know us or know about us and want to come out and see us, which is great. The challenge is, we have to limit when that happens, because we have a lot of work to do. And so when folks come out, we want to make sure we can spend time with everybody, spend some quality time with everyone, and we're not rushing through it because we've got all the stuff we need to get done. But yes, we do have at least 2 a year. One typically in April, give or take, and then so around April and then around October. And so, but make sure you join our customer email list if you haven't already. We announced that.
Go to our website.
Yep.
You can do that.
Because we'll have signups for that. So we do signups for that as well. Because we have to limit this. We also have to limit the space. We've never had too many people show up because we can easily fit a couple hundred people here without any problems. But we have parking constraints and things like that. We've got to be considerate of our neighbors. So yeah. But we
Did you say when? So we usually do one in the spring, one in the fall.
Yep,
so
spring and
usually
fall.
April and then either October, November.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Good. Ooh, so
I can't keep track of all these comments on here, you guys. Do you have some hobbies despite your busy schedule?
I would say no. Outside of this, obviously, this isn't a hobby farm. It's this is a going concern. It's a business, but it really kind of centers around this. Yeah, I wouldn't say that I do. I know for me, I was a lifelong fisherman. And so if I was to take something up again, it would probably be that. Hunting as well. I do enjoy hunting. In fact, hunting would probably be the one that would be easiest, only because I could do that in the morning and still get back. Just haven't had time. So come fall, you may see me with a gun on the shoulder walking through the desert. How about you?
Hobbies? Only hobby I have is when I want downtime and I sit on the couch and read my book.
And follow Taylor Swift.
I'm a huge Taylor Swift fan.
You are. You're definitely a Swiftie.
I know.
You know more about the Super Bowl than most men that I know. It's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous. It shouldn't be this way. It shouldn't be this way.
Or about football in general.
Yeah. We good? We on? So I promised.
I don't know.
It's okay. So I promised everybody a taste test.
And I'll try to
but before I do, can you click over? I want to show everybody where this tree. So we put a tree in the ground 4 years ago this month, actually. And so Lori's scrambling here. There we go. Now you have to go to the left and scroll down to the left screen. Scroll down so folks can see it. Are you able to scroll down? Nope, you're not. Well, okay, that's the best picture we can get for you guys. So that right there is our 4 year. It's okay. It's okay. It's just a picture. It won't slide. I was mistaken. It's not going to show.
Okay.
So that is a picture, albeit a little chopped off, of our variegated cara. Now that is a tree that we got from Reed at RSI Growers. Now before there has to be a caveat here. Because before you need to click that.
Are you ready to?
Yeah, you're good. Oh dear Lord, Lori's having some issues.
I can't.
Can you see it?
No, it's not going down there.
Oh boy, did you break this? Uh-oh. Are we broken?
Sorry, guys.
Oh goodness. Okay, you talk. Keep going.
What were you talking about?
I have no idea what.
I don't know what I did, you guys. I was trying to. What did I do?
You're okay. Don't worry.
Okay.
Yeah. No, it's just live. It's not a big deal. It's just live. Okay, give me that back.
See, right. We're not perfect.
Oh, goodness gracious, no. And we're also not rich for that. At least that little rumor isn't going around anymore.
That we're rich?
Yeah. Yeah, I think we've proven that hopefully proven that a few times over. So that right there is a variegated cara. Now, it might be hard to pick up on camera because it's not going to focus all that well. And I'm not sure if you can see the variegation. You can kind of see the variegation right there. So there's a little bit of variegation still left on the fruit. But this one is definitely ripe. So as far as size, I'd say this is about the size of a little bigger than a billiard ball, a little smaller than between a billiard ball and a baseball. So I don't know whether or not these get any bigger. I can tell you that the regular caras do get much bigger than this. So a good size, typical cara is about the size of a softball. So these are definitely a lot smaller. Now, we got that tree that you saw from Reed at RSI Growers, but I can tell you he probably doesn't have them anymore. So, and I don't know, I haven't done a Google search on this to see if it exists anywhere else. I don't know where else you get these. So literally, Lori was like, should we even talk about it?
Don't even talk about it. He wanted to do a video. I'm like, don't do a video.
No, because I don't know where to send you guys to get them. So, but hopefully we can find them. If not, maybe Reed can get it together. But one of the challenges, or one of the things we've noticed with this tree, and he told us this, is it really grows very, very slowly. It's less than 6 feet tall at 4 years old. So it grows super, super slow. And then not a whole lot of production. We have maybe just a handful of fruit. So what I'm going to do, Laura, if you want to talk to everybody while I'm gone, I'm going to cut this in half so you guys can see what it looks like.
Okay. And we have a question on here. Do y'all attend YouTube meetups? No, we have never done that. We don't have much extra time to do much.
A YouTube meetup.
Ooh.
I don't know what a YouTube meetup is. Let me know what that is.
Just like, gathering of YouTubers.
Mm-hmm. Maybe. Yeah.
How are your clients' consultations going? Hope you receive more. We haven't done any in the last couple months, but we had quite a few last year. I think it got to a point where we were like, okay, do we want to keep doing consultations just because we're so busy here? And doing a consultation, we end up having to lose an entire day of doing stuff on our property to go to someone else's property. So it's not something that we like try to promote. So it just happens to be like if someone sees it on our website that.
Yeah, I mean, consultations usually we lose a day. It is a challenge. And with me working full time, it really is a challenge because all of our big projects are focused into a single day. Okay, I want to make sure you guys see this. Check that out. That is a variegated cara. And you can see just like a traditional cara, you have that beautiful pink flesh in there. I did pull a seed out, so there are a couple of seeds in here, although not very many. So it's not seed laden. We get seeds here no matter what because we have trees that are seeded all around us and they cross-pollinate. So even our seedless varieties always have a seed or two in them. And I think there's just like 2 seeds. Here's a half of one. Look at that. Almost looks like a watermelon. That's incredible. Here, I'm going to give that to you. So one of the things we did notice, it has a very, very...
I can't eat this on camera.
No, it'll be fun if you do. It's even better if you think you can. This will be a blast. So you can see hopefully on there how thin that skin is. So it's a real thinly skinned fruit. The regular cara, or the rind that rind on a regular cara is quite a bit thicker. So, but what I'm going to do, I want to try this real quick while we have a few
Go for it.
You're not going to do it? You're not going to join me?
Yeah.
Yeah, you are?
I'm not.
Yeah, you're not? Are you paying attention to what I'm saying? Are you ignoring me?
I'm trying to like totally multitask because I'm trying to like hear you, communicate with you, read comments. I'm so behind on comments. I'm sorry
it's
if
okay.
I'm missing
No,
some
you're
of
okay.
them.
You don't need to apologize. And so this is typical of us. I'm doing one thing and one thing only. Lori's doing all these different things. Isn't that how it always goes? When we have groceries, she's got like 15 bags and I'll come in with like a beer. I've got the beer, honey. I'm good. Okay. All right. I'm going to give this a shot on camera.
All right. Do y'all use a streaming service? It's pretty easy to share pics and videos using them. No, we don't.
Well, we do. We use OBS or OSB.
Oh, yeah. But it's me trying to do, 10 different things to get that picture up there. So I'm just not sure what I
That's
did.
fantastic. Oh my goodness. That is great. I'm going to take yours if you let it sit there too long. Wow. That is amazing.
Little piece on your...
Go ahead.
On the other side.
Oh,
there
I
you go.
got
I got it.
Yeah, so I'll tell you what. Okay, I need to try to explain that flavor. Oh my goodness gracious. Guys, if you like caras, unfortunately, you probably can't get this fruit, but you would love this fruit. It tastes a lot like a cara, honestly. So one of the beautiful parts, maybe a little bit, I think you had said this. We tried one last night.
I thought it tastes like strawberries.
A little bit like strawberries.
Yeah.
A little bit like strawberries. But the flavor is very mellow. So it has a wonderful balance of tart and sweet. And caras typically do too. There's a little bit of tart, not much. It's mainly sweet. And, that little bit of red in there, of course, antioxidants that it's going to have that other citrus doesn't. But it's not super, super sweet. And it's definitely not tart. So it's not like a tart tasting fruit. Really, really good. So, you guys go ahead and talk amongst yourselves.
Would you consider selling your citrus fruit to restaurants, etc.? Wondering because of the 25% tariffs placed on Mexico.
Yeah, I suppose if we had enough of it, I might. I'll tell you, we got a whole lot of lemons. But I just don't know if we'd have enough production to sell to maybe a single restaurant for a very short period of time.
Yeah, the problem is it's not like we have rows of multiple types. We have, one lemon tree, one lime tree, so it's not a large quantities
of
citrus.
Yeah, the citrus was really because we're in Arizona. You got to grow citrus. It allows us to have fruit throughout the year because we can span that gap from basically we can start harvesting limes in August and September, and then we're harvesting citrus in through up until March. And so, we've got fruit, year round because of citrus. We wanted to make sure we had that, and evergreens at the front of the farm. That was a big deal for you.
Yeah.
Is having greens. They're really coming in wonderfully, by the way.
Yeah, they look good.
Yeah, they look really good. So you see green when you guys first pull up. If you guys ever visit us, the first thing you see, we don't have a sign there yet. We will. So you see a sign, but you'll see nothing but green. You'll see the western orchard rose, which is all of our stone fruit. You'll see the basically we have trees surrounding the chicken coop. So there's a chicken coop tucked in there, but you won't even know. It's hard to tell unless you know that it's there. And then it wraps into all of our citrus along the front of the farm. So it is pretty cool. I have to agree. It's good.
Why don't y'all have memberships?
I don't know. I suppose we probably could do that. Do you mean here? Wait, what do you mean? Do you mean here on YouTube, or do you mean like for farm pickups and produce? You have to let me know.
Probably on YouTube, because I know there's some have that.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess we could. I think the biggest thing is one of the things about that is I would want to make sure that we're supporting everybody that supports us through our membership. And so we need to make sure, I would want to make sure that we're giving additional content. And right now we struggle to get content up. So although we probably could do like a private Q&A and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's a good question.
It's too much for my mind to go there right now to even try to figure that out.
Yep.
But the YouTube meetup is just what it is. Content creators getting together for fellowship.
Oh, okay. Where's that? As I continue to eat.
I don't know.
All right, I need to put that down.
What will today's cheat meal be?
So we actually had the cheat meal yesterday. We shifted to Fridays. One of the things we want to try to do is go out to dinner. We, haven't really done that ever. Really, we've been married for 28 years, and how often have we gone out to dinner?
Not very often.
No, it doesn't happen often. Part of it is because the food is just atrocious. It doesn't really matter where you go. The food's horrible, in my opinion. It's not any better than we can make. And it's so expensive. I mean, again, back to we're not rich. And so, we really kind of eat here. But what was the question again? My mind is on this. My mind's on this fruit. This is going downhill fast.
Finish this. So our cheating meal last night was we did pizza, and sometimes if I'm in town and I want to do pizza, because I love pizza, it's like my favorite. But that's a cheating meal for us. I'll grab a pizza in town, but I wasn't. So Costco has a pepperoni pizza, and it's 4 of them in there. It's actually a really good frozen pizza.
Yeah.
So we actually had that last night, and then today is just a broccoli cheddar soup that we're doing.
Not a cheating meal. That's
Not
a keto meal. Yep.
Is this like a blood orange?
Similar to a blood orange. The blood oranges can get a lot darker though. So we have a blood orange here. It's a sanguinelli blood orange, and actually we had one last week, and it was pretty good. But there's varying degrees of darkness based on weather. So it does need some cold weather. Your blood oranges do, but the blood oranges get purple, so much darker. So even the blood oranges this year are not quite as dark as they were last year, but there's purple spots in it. It's so dark. So yeah, a lot more of that. So a lot more antioxidants in a blood orange than you're going to get out of a cara. So yeah. What else?
So just, kind of talking about Kim said multitasking is a female skill.
It's no question about it. There's absolutely no question about it. And I don't know how you get all the extra hands. So, you have 2 last time I checked, but somehow when we're carrying things, you've got like 12.
I've got a lot of them, huh?
I think it's because I need to make sure I got to make sure to fight off all the bad guys if they come up. That's what it is. Yeah, that ain't gonna happen.
So you had pomelo tree in Old Farm, still in New Farm?
Yes. Yep. So we have a pomelo tree here. One of the things we're still trying to figure out, we did get a harvest off of it the last 2 years. We're still trying to figure out when it's ripe. I think we're picking them too late. It's hard to determine when those are ripe. Usually it's in the month of December. I think we need to move that back to November. So I'm not sure yet. Once we figure that out, we'll need to get another video up for you guys. So I really like them. I like the fruit. So we juice them this year. We use it in martinis, right?
We did.
So we do a pomelo martini.
I have a 15-year-old pomegranate tree pruned like a tree. I noticed this year that its bark on trunk is peeling. Is that normal or not? Because tree looks healthy overall.
Yeah, it's probably going to be okay, especially if it's if it's healthy otherwise. Worst case scenario, it will grow back from the roots. We found that out when we had a tree literally picked up and thrown a couple hundred yards. That tree is now a full-size tree again. So in the end, it's probably okay. You can paint the trunk just like anything else. We've got one that we have shaped like a tree. We're working towards probably converting them all into that. I think we prefer that look.
I like that look better
at this point. And it's also safer for us because of rattlesnakes and visitors on the farm. So we were just surprised that it did as well as it did.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wouldn't be too concerned. But you can paint the trunk like any other trunk if you think it's sun damage. Sun damage is usually pretty easy to tell because it'll get dark black and it'll be cracking, and so that's sun damage. So if you're not seeing that, you're probably okay. What else?
Could you please have a breakfast or lunch at the farm?
Oh,
we've talked about that doing a dinner. Like a while ago, we talked about that it'd be neat to have,
I like the idea of a breakfast, though. Mm-hmm. Huh. Jot that down. Where's my assistant? Great suggestion. Wonderful suggestion.
Okay, I am like so behind you guys. I'm sorry, I'm not.
So we got to do a rapid fire because we're pushing up
everything.
against an hour. So what do we say? If you guys can give us a thumbs up, that would help out a lot.
Have you had any random people go up to you recently while out in public? We do.
It happens. It happens fairly often.
We did. We were at Fry's just a couple weeks ago
yeah.
up on 163rd, and there's this guy that came up to us and was like, "Hey, I was wondering if I'd ever see you guys in here because I know you don't live too far from here."
That's right. Yep, that is true. It doesn't happen. I wouldn't say that it happens a lot.
Not a lot, but it does happen.
Yeah. I think it's probably also where we're at. Like if we're going to Home Depot, Tractor Supply, usually that's where we run into people that will know who we are. But I thought the grocery store was kind of surprising. I wasn't expecting that.
I wasn't either. Yeah.
We always have to be on our best behavior because you just never know. It doesn't make a difference. We're still just being ourselves. Just being a goofball. It's half the time me. So, but usually trying to grab you in places that most people wouldn't want to. Well, I want to do all the time, but you know what I mean. Everybody, all the guys out there know exactly what I'm talking about. I just want to make sure I'm close to you.
We know what you mean.
Yeah.
We have a 15-foot purple plum that isn't fruiting much. Can I prune its 3 trunks to half its size?
So, so it depends. I mean, if it grows rapidly from season to season, you might be able to get away with it. That's a little bit much. So, we've got a couple of figs that we're going to prune to about 40%. I have pruned younger figs as much as 50% of the total branching and been okay. Plums generally don't grow quite as fast. So I'd be a little hesitant with a plum tree. I would say maybe do that in over a few years in subsequent years. So, prune off about 30% or so this year. And then, so maybe one of the branches, bring it down by 50%, prune, do your other pruning. And then next year, do the same thing with the second trunk. And by the third year, do that on the third trunk. So maybe do it over a 3-year period of time. Might be a safer bet on a plum tree. Or you can just go for it and give it a shot. But I didn't tell you to do that. Go ahead. Any other questions?
Not questions, just the membership thing. So I'm trying to go back and read comments here, you guys. I'm sorry if I don't respond to it, but Belt Loop 29 Homestead. So it was mixed about memberships at first, but was convinced to do them on my main channel. I never press people to join them, but some people love to feel like they're supporting the channel in a more
substantial way. Mm-hmm. Substantive way.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And it is more profitable than just getting paid for ads.
Yeah. So maybe we haven't really looked at it seriously.
Haven't.
So
we said that.
Thank you for the suggestion.
Can be as little as even 99 cents a month.
Yeah. Maybe we'll need to do that. All right. Any other questions? Breakfast burritos. Eggs and sausage, no question. We had that for lunch today. Ooh. I like that idea. Breakfast would be kind of neat.
Burritos.
Yeah, we'd have to do it the right time of year too. Gotta make sure we have enough eggs. Ooh, that would be kind of cool, wouldn't it?
It would be fun.
Okay, anything else?
Who do who do we do just our
I don't know. Question? Right at an hour.
No.
Sorry to interrupt, but we're right at an hour.
No more questions.
Okay.
It's all like comments, I think. If I missed a question, email us or save it for next week.
Okay, very good. Because we're right up against an hour. I like to try to keep these to an hour when we can.
Yeah.
So, but one last time, if you guys can give us a thumbs up, that is very helpful for us, not only during the podcast here, but as this video goes into, the archives, it definitely helps. I hope these continue to be interesting. What the heck? Okay, I'm going to keep going.
Sorry.
So you're still reading comments, I can tell.
Well, yeah, Mars Gold, do you fart in front of Lori, Dwayne?
Oh, absolutely. Are you kidding me?
All the time.
And you know what? I'm not going to toot my own horn. See what I did there? But they are impressive.
And I can't smell right now. I haven't been able to smell
wonderful.
anything for
Wonderful.
almost 2 years now. Mm-hmm. And so...
I mean, I'm sorry. It's not wonderful. It really sucks. But for that...
he's like, it's just noise.
Just noise.
It's
just noise. Ignore it. That could just been a balloon with the air letting out of a balloon. So this really is going downhill fast. For those of you who hung in there this long, I'm sorry. This has devolved into nonsense. So just want to thank you guys for joining us today. This has been a blast. I've had a good time with you guys today. Thank you guys for being so interactive. Again, if you guys have any questions for the podcast, make sure you send those in. We do want to make sure that we're doing as many of these as we can around you guys. Just want to thank you again. This has been the Desert Farmer Podcast, episode 44. Hopefully it was a productive one and it was worth your time. So, one of the things, that's the word. So hopefully it was informative for you guys, but obviously time, we talk about that. It's the most valuable thing we have here on the planet is time. You guys have chosen to spend that time with us here over the last hour. We do not take that for granted. I just want to thank you for joining us. Again, this has been the Desert Farmer Podcast, episode 44. Be sure to join us next week and every week on Saturdays at 2 o'clock Arizona time, where we get together and usually answer your questions.
Try.
So just want to thank you guys again for joining us today and remind you, if we can farm on the edge of nowhere,
so can you.
Yes.
Bye,
everyone.